Hello and welcome back. Today, we're tackling a topic that sounds complicated, but is actually a lot like something you or I might do: borrowing money. We're talking about the national debt. You hear the number constantly, trillions and trillions of dollars. It can feel like a bottomless pit. But what does it actually mean? Who's paying for it? And do we ever have to pay it back? Get ready, because we're about to break it all down. The core of the national debt is quite simple. A government, like any person or company, needs money to operate. When it expenses things like building roads, funding the military, or paying for social services, which are more than the money it brings in from taxes, it has a budget deficit. To cover that gap, the government borrows money. How does it do this? By issuing bonds. Think of a bond as an IOU. The government issues these IOUs, and people, businesses, and even other countries can buy them. When you buy a bond, you're essentially lending the government money. In return, the government promises to pay you back the original amount, principal, plus a little extra interest at a later date. So the government gets the principal and spends it. But when the time comes to pay back the principal and interest, the government doesn't just pull the money out of thin air. Instead, it often issues new bonds to a new group of buyers. The money from those new bonds is used to pay off the old ones. It's a continuous cycle. Borrow new money to pay old debts and still have some left over to spend. Let's use an example. Say the government needs $100 million. It issues a bond with a 5% interest rate, so at the end of the year, it owes $105 million. To pay this back, it issues a new bond for, say, $250 million. It uses $105 million of that new money to pay back the original debt, and it's left with $145 million to spend for the new year. This cycle continues, with the government issuing more and more debt to keep up with its spending needs and to pay back older loans. This might sound like a dangerous game. You and I can't keep doing this forever. If you take out a loan of $100 and a year later take out a new, bigger loan of $250 to pay it back, and have some extra cash, and then a loan of $500 to pay back the $250 loan, a bank will eventually ask for collateral. At some point, your loan amount will exceed the value of your assets, and no one will lend you more money. You'd go bankrupt. But governments are different. They don't have to put up collateral like a house or a car. Why? Because a government is, in a sense, everlasting. New administrations replace old ones, but the country itself and its ability to tax its citizens continues. This is the ultimate collateral, the government's ability to raise revenue from its populace. This is also why the risk of a country defaulting on its debt is so low, especially for major world economies like the United States. A government can always raise taxes or cut spending to meet its obligations. A common belief is that the national debt is all owed to other countries. While foreign countries do hold some of a nation's debt, the vast majority is held by its own public. This means that when we talk about the U.S. national debt, a huge chunk of it is held by you and me through our retirement funds, savings accounts, and mutual funds. Financial institutions, pension funds, and even the Social Security Trust Fund are all major holders of U.S. government bonds. So, the money the government borrows is often coming from its own citizens. It's an internal cycle of borrowing and lending. While foreign countries have bought U.S. bonds, they have little incentive to do so long-term. They'd rather invest that money in their own economies for growth. China, for instance, once held a significant amount of U.S. debt, possibly as a way to influence the U.S., but they eventually began selling off those bonds when they realized the U.S. would just refinance the debt by issuing new bonds. If a government can just keep borrowing and refinancing, why not borrow an insane amount, say $100 trillion? The reason is simple. There are limits. First, who would have the money to buy those bonds? If the government issues an astronomical amount of bonds, it could flood the market. People and institutions might choose to invest their money in other things like a booming stock market or real estate. The government would have to offer increasingly high interest rates to attract buyers, making the debt more expensive to service. Second, there's a risk of a breaking point. A government's creditworthiness is not limitless. If a country's debt becomes too large relative to its economic output, investors will become nervous. They might lose confidence that the country can manage its debt. A day could come when the government can't sell its bonds at a reasonable interest rate or can't sell them at all. This would lead to a financial crisis and potentially a default. So, do we ever have to pay back the national debt? The short answer is no, not in its entirety. The goal isn't to pay it all off, but to manage it responsibly. Think of a debt like a tool for growth. A businessman might take out a $1 million loan to start a company. He pays 5% interest but makes $2 million in profit. He won't pay off the loan immediately. He'll use his profits to grow the business, perhaps taking out another loan to expand even more. His debt increases, but his business grows much faster. If his business fails, he's in trouble. Governments operate in a similar way. They borrow money to invest in projects that benefit the nation, like infrastructure, education, or research. These investments should theoretically boost economic growth, making the country's economy larger and more prosperous. The goal is to ensure the economy grows faster than the debt, keeping the debt manageable and sustainable. Right now, the U.S. national debt is high, over $31 trillion. But it's not the raw number that matters most. It's the nation's ability to manage it. The key is to avoid excessive spending and ensure a strong economy that can generate enough revenue to service the debt without it becoming a burden. As long as a country maintains a high credit rating and its economy continues to grow, it can successfully manage its debt for a very, very long time. I hope this video has helped demystify the national debt for you. It's a massive number, but it's a concept that's built on simple ideas of borrowing and lending. If you learned something new, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next video. And let me know in the comments below, what's one thing that surprised you about the national debt? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.